Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we are going to study together Nehemiah, that's Nehemiah, chapter 8, Parak Ches. In this chapter we are going to begin a new section of the book of Nehemiah, where we will be discussing the teaching of Torah and the religious revival of the people and during this time period of the early Second Temple. And we are going to change our focus from the building of the walls and the fights and the difficulties with the people that were trying to stop them and so on, and we're going to change our tune and start discussing the study of Torah. So over here in this part of the book, Ezra HaSofer, Ezra the teacher, the scribe, is going to rejoin the narrative, as we have seen so far, Nehemiah was the political leader, the governor of the area, and Ezra was the teacher, the Torah teacher that had come, and both had come in the same time period, had come to join the people in Yehuda and Judea and help in the rebuilding and the revitalization of those that had come back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple, etc. So let's do verse 1. Vayasvu chol ha'am ki ish echad. The entire nation gathered together all as one. El harachov, into the open area, into the square, asher lifnei shar hamayim, which was before the water gate. So there was a gate in the walls that was called the water gate, and in front of it was a square, an open public area, and all the people gathered together. Vayomu leEzra HaSofer, and they told to Ezra the scribe, Lahavi et Sefer Torah Moshe, to bring out the book of the Torah of Moshe, the Torah of Moses, Asher Tziva Adonai et Yisrael, that God had commanded Israel. So here we have the people asking Ezra, teach us the Torah, and Ezra took out the Torah scroll. Vayavi Ezra HaKohen et HaTorah. Ezra took out the Torah of Moshe, the Torah that God had given to Moshe, Lefnei HaKol. He took it out in front of the entire congregation. This is really important. Me'ish v'ad isha, all men and all women, v'chol mevin l'shmoa, and anyone who is old enough to understand and be taught. So the children as well, except of course the little babies who are incapable yet of understanding what they were hearing. Anyone that was able to hear and listen was there and present at this time, l'shmoa, to listen and understand. This was on the first day of the 7th month of Tishrei. So in other words, this is Rosh HaShanah. As we'll see in a moment, the lack of Torah knowledge at the time was such that the general public, although they obviously knew there was something special about this month, which is why they were gathered and they all came to Jerusalem, but they weren't aware that this was even a holiday at this time. They just were so ignorant of Torah and of Jewish customs and holidays and everything, that they weren't even aware that this was Rosh Hashanah. But they wanted to learn, they wanted to know, and they asked Ezra, take out the Sefer Torah and teach us. Vayikra bo lifnei harachov, and he read from the book of the Torah in front of the entire square, asher lifnei shar hamayim, which was before the water gate, min ha'or, from sunrise ad machzis hayom, until midday. Neged ha'anoshim v'hanoshim v'hamavinim. Repeatedly throughout the book of Nehemiah, it emphasizes that men and women, and it emphasizes that women were there. We had when the women presented themselves in front of Nehemiah, that women participated in the building of the walls. There's an emphasis here that should be noted, and it's not for nothing that it is stated this way. V'ham mevinim, and all of those who were old enough to understand. V'aznei chol ha'am el sefer Torah, and everyone was paying attention to the reading of the Torah. In other words, they were just completely engrossed in listening and learning, and everyone was paying attention to Ezra. This is quite remarkable. This is quite a long sermon from sunrise till midday, listening to the Torah. But the people listened. They paid attention and they wanted to learn. They really wanted to know their Torah, their tradition, their teachings, and so that they can practice them. Vayamod Ezra HaSofer, and Ezra HaSofer was standing al Migdal Eitz, on a tower made of wood, asher asula davar, which was made for this purpose. Here we have the origins of the idea of reading the Sefer Torah in front of the tzibur, in front of the congregation, and to read it from what nowadays we would call a bima, which is a generally wooden, not always wooden, but generally wooden stand upon which the reader of the Torah stands to read to the public. Vayamod etzlo, and next to him was standing the following people: Matisya, V'Shema, Va'anoya, V'Uriya, V'Chilkiya, Ma'aseya al Yamino. This is 6 people to his right, Umismolo, and on his left, Pedaya, Umishoel, Umalkiya, V'Chashum, V'Chashbadona, V'Zechariya, Meshulam. This would be 7 people standing to his left. At least exactly how, there's some debate as to whether it was 6 and 6, and Zechariah and Meshulam might have been one person. But the point being that these men were standing next to Ezra as he taught the population the Torah, and we'll see in a moment what the purpose of having all these people was there. Vayiftach Ezra haSefer le'enei chol ha'am, and Ezra opened the book, and he showed them the words. He showed them, I'm not making this up. This is the Sefer. This is the book. This is the scroll that I am reading from, in front of the entire nation. Kimei al kol amaya, because he was above everyone and he was able to show it to them. Ukifischo amdu chol ha'am, and as he opened it, everyone stood up. Again, the origins of the custom, which we still have today. When the Torah is removed from the ark, the congregation stands in respect for the Torah. Here, this was what everyone did. As soon as Ezra took out the Sefer and showed it to them, everyone stood up. Vayivarach Ezra es Adonai ha'olim ha'gadol, and Ezra then blessed God. Before reading the Torah, he blessed God. Again, this is Birchos HaTorah. This is the origin of our custom to say a blessing to God, Baruch Hu es Hashem HaMevorach, prior to the reading of the Torah, which we read in shul and in synagogue. And this is the custom to this day. Vayanu chol ha'am amen, and everyone answered amen, amen, b'mo al yidehem, as they raised their hands up to the sky. So the people raised their hands up to the sky and answered and said amen to the blessing that Ezra had said. Vayiktu vayishtachvu l'Adonai apayim artzon. When they heard this blessing, they bowed down, which we again still do today when we say Baruch Hashem Baruch Olam V'ed. We bow forward. Nowadays, we just there's just a slight bow to commit. It's kind of a slight bow, and then they bow down by prostrating themselves on the ground with their faces to the ground. So as Ezra was reading, V'Yeshua Uvani V'Sherevia Yomin Akuv Shabtai Hodia Ma'aseya Kalita Azariah Yozavod Chanan Pilaya. These are names of some of these were some of the people that were standing next to Ezra. Some were others. The Halavim and the Levites, whose job it was to be the teachers of Torah. Mevinim esam la Torah. They would explain it in the terms. So Ezra would read a verse, and the Leviim would then explain to the people what it is that Ezra was reading, so that they can understand it. V'ha'am al amdam, while the people stood there and listened and paid attention and learned. Vayikru b'sefer b'Torah sa'olim meforash, and they read from the book of the Torah of Hashem meforash, clearly, in a way that they understood, with v'som seichel, in a way that they were able to understand it and comprehend it. Vayavinu b'mikra, and they understood what they were reading. So this is the origin again of the custom that has been for many years, the custom of Targum, of translation, of interpreting the Torah, and many Targumim had been written over the centuries and the millennia to explain the Torah, down to today when we, to have a chumash. If we understand the words, fine. If we don't, we have English translations of all types and sorts, and commentaries, etc., for us to understand and read. And many places, of course, still have the custom for someone to summarize what it is, the message that's being read. But it's important that when Ezra taught, that he taught in a way that people should understand. By Yomer Nehemiah, and Nehemiah, who was there, who Hatir Shasa, who is Hatir Shasa. We mentioned this a few times, that Nehemiah also had Nehemiah was his Hebrew name, Hatir Shasa was his Persian name. Remember, he was an official in the Persian court. The Ezra HaKohen HaSofer, and Ezra the Kohen, who was the scribe, right? He was a priest, he was a Kohen, he was also a scholar, a scribe. The Halaviim, and in those days, scribe and scholar is synonymous. So a scribe doesn't just mean he knows how to write. A scribe means he's an educated in the writings and in the wisdom that is contained therein. The Halaviim hamivinim etzam. So Nehemiah said, and Ezra and the Leviim, the Levites who were explaining to the nation l'chol ha'am, they said to the nation after as they were reading, they read that today is Rosh HaShanah, that the first day of the 7th month of the year is a holiday. So they taught them, they reached this part of the Torah where they taught the people, Hayom Kadosh Hu LaAdonai Eloheichem. Today is a holy day to the Lord your God. Al tit'ablu. Do not mourn, v'al tifku, and do not cry. Kivochim kol ha'am, because the people, as they listened and learned, they were crying. Kishamam et divrei Torah, when they heard the words of the Torah, the people were weeping and crying. There's several ways of understanding this weeping and the crying. And they're all true, presumably. Rashi explains that they were crying because they realized there's so much for us to do, there's so much Torah for us to do, and we haven't been doing it. We haven't been keeping the Torah properly. And they were crying because they were saddened by the fact that they did not have that they had not been keeping the Torah properly. Others understood that they read the parts of the Torah. The Ralbag explains that they read the parts of the Torah that discuss the punishments that come to people who don't keep the Torah. So they were crying because they were sad and they didn't keep them. And Nehemiah and Ezra and the other teachers that were there told the people, don't cry, right? Don't cry. Because that's not the point. You can cry, but the main point is action. You need to. They said to them, today is a holiday. You didn't know before. Now you know. Eat good foods, and drink sweet drinks. And to the people that don't have food and drink to eat, send gifts so that everyone should have food. The rich, the people that have food, give to the poor so that they can celebrate the holiday together. Why? This is the origin of the very, very important custom before a holiday, to make sure that the poor people can also celebrate the holiday and that they have what they need to eat, because today is a holy day to our Master God. Do not be sad today. Why? Because your strength is the joy that you have in serving God. This is such a beautiful, beautiful pasuk, and one of the most basic ideas of the religion of Judaism, that our strength comes from the joy and the happiness that we have together with God, the eating of the food, the eating and drinking together with friends, and making sure that everyone in the entire community enjoys together. This is ma'uzchem. This is our strength. This is what makes the Jewish people, a people. This is what gives us strength. This is, and what is it? It is the joy in the service of God. V'halaviyim machshim kol ha'am leimar, and the Leviim, the Levites, were teaching them and quieting them down. Hasu, quiet down. Ki hayom kadosh, today is a holy day. Today is a happy day. V'al te'atzu, do not be sad. V'yechu ha'am le'echol v'leshtos u'leshalach manos. And the entire nation went to eat and drink and to send gifts to each other, v'lasos simcha gedolah, and to make a tremendous celebration, ki hevinu badvarim asher hodiu lahem, because they understood that which they were being taught. The Torah comes with a lot of obligations, and sure, the Torah comes with potential punishments for not keeping those obligations. But hevinu badvarim, they understood that this wasn't the point of the Torah. the Torah, much deeper than that, is the joy in serving God. Yes, there are rules, but when you keep those rules and you enjoy the holiday of Rosh Hashanah together, this is the people's strength. And once they understood that, they went home to celebrate Vayom HaSheni, and on the second day, presumably this was after Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah is a one-day holiday typically, but how it became a two-day holiday is we can discuss another time. But on the second day, Ne'asvu Roshei Ha'avot, the heads of the families gathered, L'chol Ha'am, the heads of all the families of the nation gathered, HaKohanim v'Halavim, including the priestly families and the Levite families, gathered El Ezra HaSofer, they gathered before Ezra Laskil El Divrei Torah to continue studying. They have now been introduced to the study of Torah, and they came and they want to listen, they want to learn more. Vayimtzu Ukasav B'Torah, and as they were studying, they were now studying the laws of the month of Tishrei. And as they're reading the laws of the month of Tishrei, they read about Rosh Hashanah, and after that, they heard Asher Tziva Adonai B'Yad Moshe Asher Yeshu V'nei Yisrael B'Sukkot B'Chag B'Chodesh HaShvi, that there is an obligation, and there is to make a sukkah on the holiday that occurs in the 7th month, and they realized that's right around the corner. Just less than 2 weeks away comes the holiday of Sukkot, and there's a lot to do to get ready for Sukkot. We need to get ready for this. It's interesting that it doesn't mention anything about Yom Kippur. Why that is not clear. Presumably, while there's a lot of spiritual preparation that one would need to do to get ready for Yom Kippur, but there's not a lot of physical preparation that needs to be done. Whereas for Sukkot, there's a lot of work to do, which we'll see in a moment. So v'asher yashmiu v'yaviru kol b'chol ereim, and so they realize that they need to make announcements in all of the towns in Judea, Yerushalayim, and in Jerusalem. Lamar saying, "Tzu'u ahari, you need to go out into the mountains, into the fields, v'haviu, and there's a lot you need to do. Ali zayit v'etz ali eitz shemen, you need to bring branches of olive trees, branches of Ali Eitz Shemen is sometimes it's hard to know the oily a tree that has like an oil, like a sap, and usually this is assumed to mean like pine trees. If you know, the evergreen trees, especially if you look at the Jerusalem pine trees, they have like an oily stuff that comes out on the bark, so they're called alei eitz shemen. In order to build Sukkot, we need to get wood, v'alei hadas, v'alei tamarim, and you need to get hadas, myrtles, in order to fulfill all the mitzvot of Sukkot. You need hadasim, v'alei tamarim, and you need dates. Palms, you need palms for a lulav, alei eitz avot, and you need the alei eitz avot is aravot, la'asot Sukkot kakasuv, in order for us to do the holiday of Sukkot as it is written in the Torah. The people didn't know this. Vayetzu ha'am vayaviu, and the nation went and they all brought vayasu lahem Sukkot, and they built Sukkot, ish al gago, many people on their rooftops, uvachatzoteim, and in their yards, uvachatzot beit Elohim, and in the courtyards of the temple itself. They built Sukkot u'verchov shar hamayim, and in this the large square that was outside the gate of water, u'verchov shar Ephraim, and in the square that was in front of the Ephraim gate, which was another one of the gates of the walls of Jerusalem. So Sukkot were being built everywhere by Asu chol hakohol hashavim min hashvi, and all of the people that had returned from the captivity, returned from Persia, the entire nation that now resided in the land of Israel. They all built Sukkot, vayeshvu basukot, and they lived in their Sukkot. Ki lo asu mimei Yoshua ben Nun kein bnei Yisrael, because since the days of Yoshua, of Joshua, the days of they had not done something like this ad hayomo, until this day. This understanding exactly what this means, that certainly there had been Sukkot built. We know that there had been. It has been mentioned in other parts of Tanakh. Between the times of Yoshua, that we're talking about, a long time. We're talking about hundreds of years. And there were Sukkot. So what does this mean that they hadn't been done? So this it seems like it means that it was so widespread. Yeah, there were people that did, but there were people that didn't keep the holiday. But here, this was the entire nation together, everyone, all over, Sukkot, everywhere. This hadn't been done. Others understand, Vatihi simcha haggedolah ma'od, and there was a tremendous amount of rejoicing and happiness. And some understand that this is what hasn't been since the day of Yoshua. Yeah, people have celebrated the holiday, but since the days of Yoshua, it hadn't been such a joyous occasion, such a joyous celebration since the days of Yoshua. Another way of understanding this that I was thinking is that Mimei Yoshua ben Nun might just be a reference to the period of time, the settlement. In other words, it hadn't been done throughout the exile in Persia because they weren't necessarily able to celebrate the holidays appropriately. And Mimei Yoshua ben Nun doesn't mean all the days of Yeshua himself, but the days from before when the first temple was built, right? That period of time, that settlement that began with Yeshua ben Nun and ended with the destruction of the first temple, since those days it hadn't been kept. It's just another way of understanding that. And as they're learning, and as they're learning more and more about their religion, about their heritage, about the Torah, Vayikra b'Sefer Torah Tolem Yom B'Yom, every single day of the holiday, Min HaYom Rishon, from the first day, presumably this means the first day of Tishrei, Rosh HaShanah, which was the day that we started this chapter with, when Ezra started to read the Torah, from the first day Ad Yom Ha'achron until the last day, Vayasu Chog Shivat Yamim, and they made the holiday of Sukkot for 7 days, Vayom HaShmini Atzeret, and they also made the holiday of Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day of Sukkot, which is an additional day of holiday, Kamishpat, according to the laws that are written in the Torah. Thank you so much for studying chapter 8 together of Nehemiah. Looking forward to studying the rest of this beautiful book of Nehemiah together.